Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Doing a part 2, as you might have seen in the title. I have no idea what that'll actually be named. But generally I wanted to go through a few options. Mine was an exceptionally poor flyer. And I like flying, and I like flying indoors, especially right now. It's about 12 degrees out and it's blowing snow. So I wanted to see if I could make this actually fly reasonably well. I have gone the expensive route. If you're looking for more of a hard modification on this unit, you might want to check out SeBy Docky's video. He did some pretty serious modifications. You can see my modifications are relatively basic. I removed the back LED. That did not yield any noticeable differences, and I desoldered it as well. But what you see on here are some WarLark props. If you saw that video, that you know that's a 7mm powered quad that is similar in design as to a lot of these inducted. But so I had a second set of props from that, and I put those on there. And the vibrations that we're getting, it comes from the props. As soon as I put these on, the picture just was much better. Pretty much everything else I do, and I'll show you kind of the stages through the DVR footage that I do, really didn't help. Maybe it helped a little bit, but you couldn't tell very much because it was so minimal. But I went with the Micro Motor Warehouse Dark Edition motors. You can see the little green dot down in there, hopefully. So those, those come in about 36 bucks after shipping. And that's a pretty heavy price to pay, but I was really wanting to see what the story was. And I noticed that these motors were substantially more difficult to get down in the motor pods. Matter of fact, if we look very closely, we'll probably see that I deformed, I think, at least 2 of the feet. This one definitely I deformed, trying to get the motor down in there. I still have the traditional tray, but as you'll see in the flight footage, as we work through the different iterations that I go through, that it now flies pretty well. Of course, it's underpropped because we've got 8.5mm high octane motors, and we have props that are substantially smaller than they could be. And what I'm thinking I might do, now that I've kind of identified that it's definitely a prop issue, I think in my case I could reverse course and go back to the other motors to see if that makes any difference. I'm suspecting it won't help that much, just because I think my motors were just exceptionally poor performers. They were not good. So I'm going to leave these motors in, and then we're going to roll the DVR footage, and we'll discuss the different steps that I tried in order to make this a good flyer. So here we go. Another punch out. 3, 2, 1. That's all it's got. Now we know we've got motors that will make it fly, so let's take it for a spin. We can see right off the bat we've got a lot of micro vibrations that are making the image look out of focus. That's the best descriptor I can use for it. It just looks like everything is a bit soft and we haven't done the focusing on our camera. And I'm noticing this in the goggles, so I decided to bring it down and take another look at the image to see what's going on, because when you're in flight you're not always perfectly sure what's the issue, but it does fly at least, so we can have some fun with it. I'm going to bring it down. We can see everything clears up when we bring it down. So we know the camera's focused. We take back off and we decide, well, let's land and try something else. So now we're going to try a small rubber band. And I put everything on screen. That way anybody who is skipping around won't be confused about what's going on. I don't want people to think that my unit flew like this out of the box and maybe the volume's off and they don't hear me giving the narration. So I put this all on screen. That's a little bit annoying, but we can see the small rubber band may have helped, but it was hard to tell. So we move on. Now we've got a big rubber band. And I've adjusted this a few times, but I take off and I can still hear it prop striking, and I don't clear the couch, so I just decide, let's scrap that. Let's try again. So we've still got the big rubber bands, but we've readjusted the rubber band again so that we can make sure our props don't get damaged. Not that it matters.
we can see that if we look at the ducts and the rubber band, we can see it vibrate every once in a while still. So our picture tends to come and go, and I'm not certain that's through prop strikes, but I'd noticed it in the DVR after watching it, but when I was flying I didn't hear the prop strikes that I heard initially. But we definitely still have vibrations. They're not quite as severe as they were without the rubber bands at all, and I'm not sure there's an improvement from the small to the big rubber bands. Now we've gone to what is going to end up my final configuration, which is the Micromotor Warehouse Insane Motors, the 8020 18s, and the WarLark props. And we can see that our image is now nice and sharp. We can see that the ducts aren't bouncing around, and it flies quite well. And of course we could get a whole lot more out of this if we had proper sized props for it. But at least we can have some fun. And you can pick up these props. They're available from SeBy. The price, I think, was a little bit higher than we typically pay, but you might want to check out those props. If you have decently performing motors on yours, these props may help to fix any vibration issues, which will, of course, help with the sudden yaw issue we've been seeing. There is one video out there that I'm becoming a little bit more skeptical as more QX70 videos become available. I don't want to call them out or anything, but it just seemed as though their unit performs so much better than anybody else has got one. It's hard to believe that that's still stock. And maybe I missed it to where maybe they include in the description that they changed certain things out. I think they talked about going, they use different props, but I still think from what I saw that those motors, if they got motors that perform that well, they are a lucky group, because I haven't seen one that performs that well since. So this combination works reasonably well, but you've spent, if let's say the WarLark props are only $5, which I think they're more than that, and we add the Micromotor Warehouse Insane Motors, we've got another $40, which is what, 80% of the cost. So if you've got one and you want to fly it, this is a route you can take. A cheaper alternative would be to follow SeBy Docky's video, where he does a lot of clipping and removing. Well, that's the end of this video. I appreciate and thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please leave those in the section down below. And happy holidays.